This is the pop-up parade figure of Spike Spiegel. Released in August of 2022, it comes with an hexagonal base, which he attaches to using pegs sticking out the bottom of his shoes. So he cannot stand without the base. The pop-up parade figure stands 18 centimeters tall, from the bottom of his shoes to the tip of his hair, and has managed to capture Spike's likeness very well. Initially, when I had only the promotional images to go by, I wasn't convinced. But in hand, I can see the lens Good Smile, the company who has made the pop-up parade figures, has gone to in order to capture him in 3 dimensions. From the green tint and the highlights of his spiky hair that was present in the cel-painted animation, to the fine line work of his eyes and mouth, to the suit, which surprisingly is not a single shade of blue here, but a layering of various shades of blue and violet, giving it depth and texture. It comes across with a very subtle touch, not heavy-handed in the least. In fact, there's a chance you'll only notice it if you pick up the figure to examine it closely. Every fold in his suit and tapering trousers is crisply sculpted. I rate my figures out of 10, dividing the 10 into 4 categories of 2.5 points each. The first category is likeness, and as I've said, this is Spike, though I must admit that in this scale, the animation proportions reduce the size of his head and his features, which though small is well captured by the face-printed line work, which is almost lost until you look at him closely, particularly with a magnifying glass, which I have done, and I can reassure you that the detail is actually there. Now I can't fault the figure for its size, because it is a 7-inch scale figure. It would be like calling a greyhound too lean or a tribble too furry. So I'll only give the pop-up parade figure a 1.75 out of 2.5. The next category is detail, i.e. 1.25 for sculpt detail and 1.25 for paint detail. As much as I like the details in the folds, I do feel some edges, mainly the fabric of his shirt collar, could have been sharper and not as thick as his finger. So sculpt gets a 0.75. The layering of paint for his suit and hair are excellent. I do feel the shade of his skin needs to be a shade darker to be accurate, because as it stands, his skin tone matches Faye's, while in the anime he is clearly darker than her. So I rate it 1 out of 1.25. The third category is pose/articulation, i.e. pose if it's a statue and articulation if it's an action figure, which will allow it to take the best poses. I like that it captures Spike's attitude. It feels vanilla until you see it from all angles. Then you get it. It's a simple museum pose, which is what the pop-up parade line goes for, and most importantly, it suits the character, so it gets the job done. However, I would still have preferred some dynamism rather than it being so static, so I will only give it a 2 out of 2.5. The final category is representation. That is how special the figure is in terms of representing this character. Here I take into account other representations of the character in their original medium, be it in a film or TV series or comic book, and whether I feel this was not a waste of an opportunity. That is the main point of this category. And yes, it is completely subjective. The rating for this is entirely based on the present situation. It is entirely possible that Pop-Up Parade may release other variants of Spike, in which case this figure's rating in this category will increase, since it will make it a unique variant, catching a certain likeness rather than the character from the show in general. Now my 1/6 scale figure has the trench coat, so I don't mind that he is not wearing it here. But something that is missing from each of the 4 figures that I have of him is the cigarette in the corner of his mouth. But I get it. Nobody wants to promote smoking, and if I wanted to, I could always just customize it, which I may do at some point. Still, I already have him in his cool pose, so I would have liked something with him in a kung fu pose maybe, because I do feel that's missing from my collection. Though again, I could get my Play Car Arts figure of Spike into a kung fu kick. Now you see why this category is so subjective. And if you think that it is too subjective to be taken into account, hey, it's my figure in my collection. I think it matters. But again, it is my 4th Spike figure, so it suffers because it does not feel very special, whereas the other 3 figures in the Pop-Up Parade line feel incredibly special, Not only because they are the only representation I have of those characters in my collection, they are in the same scale, allowing them to be displayed together, which raises the value of this Spike figure twofold. I give it a 2.25 out of 2.5. So adding them up totals the score for this pop-up parade figure of Spike Spiegel to 7.75 out of 10. Oh, I don't know if I've been too generous with that rating, but what the hell, it is my first video. So let's begin on a positive note, right? Because at the end of the day, every time I look at this figure among the rest of my crew on my shelf, I hear those trumpets announcing the start of the Cowboy Bebop theme, and what more can I ask for?